Hello, and welcome to Pima Community College's Club Officer Training. We're so glad that you could join us today and hope that this training can help you learn some of the guidelines, procedures, and also resources that are available to you as a Pima Community College club. My name is Bea Velasquez, my pronouns are they, them, and I work up at the Northwest campus.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Wellborn. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm at the West campus.
So before we jump into some of the more in-depth material, we want to make sure that you know about our Pima Club Handbook. This handbook outlines everything that we're going to talk about in this training. Also, as a reference, in the top right corner, we've added reference pages to every slide in this presentation. These refer to the pages that correlate with the club handbook and where you can find more information about the topic that we're discussing throughout. So the first form that we want to make sure that you're familiar with is the student organization application. This application is a required paperwork that ensures that your club is active, and it must be completed every semester. There are two pieces of this application. The first piece of this application asks that you list all of your active members and appointed officers. If your members and officers happen to change during the semester, please be sure to submit an updated roster. It is the club's responsibilities to have an updated roster with Student Life. If you have an out-of-date roster, this could prevent your club from being able to have students who are not listed on this roster participate in travel and other off-campus activities with the club. The other part of this application requires that you share your club's goals, objectives, and more each semester. Going through this process every semester can be a simple and great way for your club to refocus and identify potential activities such as events and fundraisers. This section also asks for the club's bylaws and constitution. You can find a template to how to format that within the Student Club Handbook. So now that you're a club, what does this mean? There are some amazing perks that you can now have access to as an official Pima Community College club. As a club, you're able to host events and invite speakers and performers to your campus for special events and get-togethers. You're also able to host fundraisers on and off campus that will allow your club to participate in more events and gather more funds. You can also represent and participate as a club in off-campus events such as conferences and gatherings. Clubs are also able to travel nationally to conferences and events with or without the financial support of Student Life. All of these activities are done through a series of required forms that include our activity request form, fund request, and travel request process, among others. You also have tools such as social media and marketing, as well as the ability to internally stay up to date to manage your club's funds that can really help to make all of these ideas a reality for your club.
The activity request form is the form you'll use the most often. This form must be completed for any activities that are taking place outside of your regularly scheduled meetings. This includes things like tabling on and off campus. So you could be promoting an event or activity you have coming up, recruiting new members, things like that. Additionally, if you are having a guest speaker or some sort of special event during your club meeting, we would like you to complete an activity request form for that. If you're attending an event off campus, you need to be sure that you complete the off-campus facility usage form, which is the second page of the activity request form. If you're doing something on campus, you don't need to worry about that second page at all. You also need to do an activity request form if you want to host an event with Student Life, if you're organizing a fundraising activity. Again, the best rule of thumb is if this is anything other than our regularly scheduled typical meeting, we should do an activity request form for it. If you need help figuring out how to plan an event or activity, we do have a program planning guide for you. This program planning guide is called the No BS Damn It Planning Guide. Each of those letters stands for a different consideration you need to make while planning your event or activity. For example, the N stands for needs. If you need assistance as you're going through this planning guide, you can see your student life coordinator, and definitely make sure to utilize the resources within your club and your club advisor. If you would like to sell or serve food to the public, then there is a separate process and series of steps that you need to follow. If you're having a regular meeting and you want to have pizza, that's totally fine. If you want to have a potluck within your meeting, you can do that as well. However, when you open it up to other people, that's where this whole other process comes into play. So be sure to see your student life coordinator for that packet regarding selling and serving food. Right now, the activity request form is available as a paper form and as a fillable PDF. At this time, we are working on creating a digital version of this so that you can not only submit electronically, but also get your approvals and signatures electronically. That way you don't have to try to track down your advisor. If you have any questions as you're filling this out, please be sure to see us. We also encourage you to give us a thorough event description, as this is what we use for the campus calendar of events, which can be seen not only by your fellow students, but by PCC faculty and staff and the Tucson general community. Along with your activity request form, another form you may be submitting is your funding request. Be aware that the funding request does have a little bit longer lead time than your activity request. We need the funding request submitted at least 3 weeks prior to your need. The more lead time you can give us, though, the better, as there's a number of processes and procedures that we have to follow within Pima Community College. We'd like you to provide us as much information as possible. More is always better in this case. You'll need to provide a budget and cost breakdown, and be sure to include tax in your cost breakdown, as this can make a big difference. You'll need to make sure that you submit this funding request at the same time as your activity request, so we have a full picture of exactly what it is that you're doing and what financial needs you have. There's no maximum or minimum to the request. However, we ask that you keep it reasonable. Once you submit your request, the review and approval process will be 5 business days. During this time period, we may ask for more information, clarification, and the like. So that's why it's important that you give us as much information up front. Part of the funding request is that we cannot just give X number of dollars to your club. We must purchase the items or services for you. So please keep this in mind as part of the funding request process. Another aspect of funding request is that you can ask Student Life to assist in bringing performers and speakers to campus. This process is a little bit different, so we ask that you come and see us if this is something you're considering doing. This also may take a little bit longer than the 3 weeks, so it's best to come see Student Life as soon as you are considering bringing a performer or speaker to campus. If you have any questions about this whole process, please see your Student Life coordinator, and also there is information regarding all of these steps in your handbook.
Now that you've started thinking about different events and potentially speakers that you could bring on campus, how do you let other students know about this? The 2 biggest tools that we like to let students know and make sure that they are utilizing is social media and advertising on campus. Social media allows you to let members and interested students know about upcoming meetings, events, and fundraisers. It also allows you to educate potential members a little bit more about what type of activities or events they could participate in. What better way to get new members than to show them the kind of activities and events your club likes to host? Once your club does create social media pages, you are required to submit login information for these accounts via the link on the slide. This allows Student Life to ensure that we are able to access these accounts in case your club becomes inactive and the page needs to be taken down. As a Pima student and representing clubs, there are also certain guidelines your post must follow, including the Pima Student Code of Conduct. If any post is deemed inappropriate due to language or content or is in violation of the Code of Conduct, Student Life reserves the right to delete or edit these posts that violate our standards. If a club's social media account is found to be in violation of these standards repeatedly, this will result in canceled social media accounts. Another great tool for clubs to use is advertising on campus. Clubs are able to post flyers and posters sharing event and meeting information throughout our different campuses. Before you do this, though, please talk to your Student Life office so that you can receive the flyer template that Pima Community requires for all postings on campus. You will also need to get approval for your posters, so stop by and show us your great designs.
Your club account is another great resource for you as a student organization. We're going to talk a little bit about managing your club funds and what that account means. Your club account is managed by Pima Community College. This means that there are no associated bank fees that you would find if you were with a bank or a credit union. It also means that our campus cashier serves as basically our bank, and deposits are made with our campus cashiers. At some campuses, you can also request a petty cash loan to start your cash box with some change for a fundraiser. There is a form and a process for this, so be sure you check with your Student Life coordinator prior to the start of your fundraiser, as that may be too late to get this petty cash loan going. All of our deposits are made with our campus cashier. If you have someone who is writing a check, please have them make it out to Pima Community College and not directly to your club. Once they make it out to Pima Community College, though, they should put your name in the memo section of the check. At West Campus, our cashier asks us to use deposit slips. These slips are available in Student Life, and we can help you figure out how to fill them out if you need to. The West Campus cashier will not take a deposit without that deposit slip. Something very important to keep in mind and is considered good cash handling policy is that deposits from fundraisers or events must be made in the same day. The only exception to this is if you're not able to get to your campus cashier before the end of the business day. If that's the case, then you need to make that deposit the very next business day. Here is an example of what the deposit slip for West Campus looks like. These are available in the Student Life office, and we can assist you in figuring out how to fill them out if you need to. Be sure to use this if you're making a deposit at West Campus, as the cashier will not take club deposits without it. A little bit more about managing your club funds. Since the college is our bank, we need to let them know who is authorized to sign to withdraw funds from our club's account. This is also known as the green card, as it is a green card. You'll want to make sure that you update this anytime you have a change in officers or advisors, as only the authorized signers found on this card can approve withdrawals and expenses from club funds. There are only a few spots available on this card, so if you have more people that need to sign this card than what you have space for, we ask that you add those additional signers at the bottom, or you have members share a signature line. Please do not use the back side of this card, only the front side, to let us know who your authorized signers are. If you have any questions, please see your Student Life office. So we've talked a little bit about how you make deposits to your club account. Now we're going to talk about how you withdraw money from your account. This is done with the payment request form. The payment request form is used in 3 different ways. So let's use the example that we're getting club t-shirts. We've gone and met with a vendor, we've decided on design and color and all those different aspects, and we then ask that vendor for an invoice. We use that invoice along with this payment request form to make a payment to that vendor so that our club can get their shirts. Another way to utilize this form is to reimburse a club member, officer, or advisor who made a purchase on behalf of the club. For reimbursements, whoever is being reimbursed, whether it be a member, officer, or advisor, cannot also be an authorized signer for this form. You must have 2 other authorized signers sign the bottom of the form. Along with the payment request form, we must attach an itemized receipt. If you shop at Target or Safeway or any major chain store, what you get from the cashier is already an itemized receipt. However, if you work with a local vendor or small business, you may need to request that they create an itemized receipt for you. For example, we used to get pizza from Los Olivos on Congress, and they used to have to handwrite a slip for us so that we could turn in an itemized receipt for the pizza we purchased from them. So just be sure that you have an itemized receipt attached to this payment request form that corresponds with the expenses that are being reimbursed. The other way this form can be used is as an advance. So we know we have an event or activity coming up in several weeks, so we can request an advance so that we can go and purchase those items instead of having to reimburse one of our members. You want to make sure you do some research so that you're requesting an appropriate amount that's not too small or too big. Much like the reimbursement, whoever the advance is being made to, which should be a club officer or advisor, that person cannot be one of the 2 authorized signers at the bottom of this form. Once the purchase is made, the person who received the advance needs to turn in an itemized receipt that corresponds to the advance. If the advance was too large, for example, let's say we requested $50 and we only spent $45, then along with that itemized receipt, we need to turn in that extra $5. If our request was too small, then that's a little bit different. We still need to turn in an itemized receipt, and if the member needs to be reimbursed that additional amount, then we need to do an additional payment request form. However, if they're like, no, I'm cool, guys, I'll just donate that $2 to you all, then we only need to turn in the itemized receipt. If you have questions on these processes, please stop by your student life office. The next part of managing funds is keeping an accurate tally of transactions. We have a report that we can print to assist you with that, called the Fund Account Report. There is a request form that corresponds with that to request that we print that report for you so that you can see the transactions that have happened during a certain time period, or the default is during the academic year. We do ask that you give us 3 days notice for this, as sometimes it can be difficult to get the report to run correctly, or the system sometimes is down. If you come in 5 minutes before you need the report, we may not be able to get that report for you. So just be sure that you give yourself a little bit of lead time in getting this report. If you have any questions, again, please see your student life office.
The last section that we'd like to cover in this training pertains to travel. There are 2 categories of travel that happen within student life. Some of that is travel within Tucson, for example, if your club would like to participate in an event that is happening in town. Any of those requirements and paperwork for that sort of travel is not what we're going to talk about right now. What we're going to briefly cover is what procedures look like for travel outside of Tucson. This is a small section of the information that you can find within the student handbook pertaining to travel. In essence, before any travel procedures can be started, your club officers, club advisor, and student life coordinator need to meet and talk about the travel that you would like to do. The more time that you give all parties to take care of this travel, the more likely we will be able to approve this travel and also potentially help you with expenses. So please be sure to schedule a meeting with your student life coordinator as soon as your club begins discussions about travel. Just very briefly, one thing we do want to mention is a general timeline for this travel. It would be best if you could start thinking about this travel approximately 6 months before the date that you would like to travel. This gives us enough time to make sure that we can take a look at all of the different pieces that are included. This means potentially seeing if per diems would be appropriate, making sure that lodging is covered, and making sure that air travel is also covered. You can find more specific information about what this travel process looks like in pages 37 and 40 of your student organization handbook. Thank you so much for joining us for this club training. We hope that you've learned some tricks and tools that can help you operate as a club here at Pima Community College. Please be sure to complete the quiz that goes along with this training to have your requirement completed for the Student Life Office.
If you still have any questions we didn't answer during this training, please be sure to see your Student Life Office, and we look forward to working with you. Have a fantastic semester.